Actually, my neighbor here mentioned one of the things I wanted to talk about. You know, if it is supposed to be a study, very comprehensive, there are some things we can never hide out. The only thing is the way, as he said, we bring them out, as she said here. Because when the presenter was talking about the giving references to the existing documents, he talked about the global counter-terrorism strategy, which has 4 pillars. The most important one, which is pillar number 1, talks of addressing prolonged unresolved conflicts, humanization of victims of terrorism, forms of and its forms of manifestations, lack of rule of law, human rights issues, national religious discrimination, and things like that. Now, the point is, if we are to have a comprehensive study, we have to embrace all this. But we also need to, when the professor was presenting, he talked of the interviews, about 150, the youth, the groups to be interviewed. I would love to know that if we are to look at these issues as Charles raised them, and maybe as they can come out, only that the way he raised them was a bit inclined somehow. We need to see that if there are things, manifestations of dehumanization, abuse of human rights, I think do these groups who are doing it, do they know the repercussion, the dimension it has into favoring the other side? So I would love to see the study also bring in, you know, respondents from the security forces. Do you know that the approaches you could be using, say, to in community policy, whatever, that could have a bearing into promoting the negative side of it? So when that one comes out, it will address his concerns in a more, you know, positive manner. So that would be my plea. When we talk of course, good governance, it is one of the things the study is looking at. You know, having the legal framework in place and things like this. These laws, how they are being enforced, you know, could have a bearing. There is a way. It's one thing to have a law in place, but also a different thing to apply it in a formal way. So I would wish to have the respondents from maybe the police and the army in the approaches we are using to combat terrorism or crime in that area.
All right, let's put all of them together.
My name is Christopher, I'm a journalist with New Vision. Doctor, you talked about the cluster districts or the districts you're going to be focusing on in Uganda. My question is, which criteria did you use to select these districts? Also, there are incidences of research that is not credible. We have had of instances where people, like the youth, are called and say there is something here, you come, you just answer this one. What are you doing to avoid such a scenario?
Wonderful.
Thank you, Florence. I'm just impressed that this is an inclusive mechanism and specifically targeting the youth. And we heard from Professor in his presentation. He presented the various definitions about who is a youth, which range of age. But my concern is, since we are saying radicalization is a process, and we are targeting the youth, yes, but my biggest concern, how about the age bracket just before the youth? Because we see so many being radicalized. We have children, street children, and you can imagine their behaviors and whatever they engage in. And they are the force. You've also seen from the different conflicts, children have been, you know, recruited, and they are a potential force, and very vulnerable, and they execute the mission well better than adults. So That's my concern. How about the bracket for the youth? And it's the biggest issue that is cropping up in our society.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mine is
Your name?
arising. Oh, sorry, my name is David Obot from Guru. Arising from my work with refugees that I have gained over a period of time, but even right now, our program is handling South Sudanese refugees in Kiriando. One of the things we noticed is that many of these youth come and bring young ones, the children, and then adults. But in between, after dropping all this, they disappear. So how is this research going to capture that category? That is highly migrant. I mean, you cannot really. You mentioned Kitgum. At one time, we even realized that even the authorities in Kitgum mentioned how they are very much threatened with the illicit arms entry. You know, so that category of the South Sudanese entering Uganda and then back and forth, because it's also related to this topic we are researching on. How are you going to capture that? Because I think that is a very important factor in this research, especially Kitgum.
Thank you.
Nixon, mine is looking at violent extremism in terms of family upbringing. You know, the youth must have come from a certain family background. And the way you grow in a family setting also models the way you respond to situations in the later stages. So is this study also trying to look at the background of some of these youth who are being radicalized and these youth who are becoming extremism? For example, in a family where mother and father are always settling their dispute violently, I believe this child will also think that that is the best way of settling any misunderstanding. So therefore, the family setting and the social role which the youth are coming from should also be taken into consideration, because there are some society, some groups which they don't quickly adapt into this violence, while others, you just say, stupid is enough for a war.
Thank you. Insight that some of us have not even imagined about in Uganda, including Ugandans that are in the team. And most of the observations that probably you have raised, to me, they are points of consideration as we refocus on our methodology. They may not even have the answer. Some of them, I would request that whoever is responding should actually ask back to the team to give us the answer. Because in some of these, you are the experts. You are the people who are on the ground. Like, if you ask me about the link with refugees, I'll actually throw back this to you to tell us how we can include it. Because that's the answer. If you talk about street children, we realize that our street children in Nairobi are no longer there, not knowing that there are now a force elsewhere and coming back to beat us. How do we do this? How do we involve the security agencies, and how do we get them to even answer our questions through the interview? Because sometimes you go to an officer and they say, no, it's my boss who should be answering this. If I'm not, how do we go about this? Answers are with you. But let me start by inviting Professor Sande Okello. He's already mourning.
Thank you very much. It looks like I'm the subject of giving answers to this research. But I want us to consider this is a research. And the research, you get into the research without preempting the solution. You are getting to know what is underneath and you want to discover. And in order to discover, you must have good sense of what methodology and tools you use in order to get the information you need. You need to have the scope in which you operate. You cannot do research in a vacuum. You need to know the problem. Without the problem, you are researching nothing. Otherwise, you need to define the problem very clearly. This is just to give you an overview of what I'm going to kind of request from you. Sam has actually mentioned a few things. Maybe I can emphasize again, the purpose of this Inception meeting is to get information from you and to help us to shape the research in the best way possible in the Ugandan context. It is also to see how we can limit the research and put it into a limited context. Now, let me try to look at some of the things. I have two heavyweights here next to me, Charles and David. Very serious questions. The process of radicalization, to what extent, how deep do we go? The issues of returnees as a special cell. This is also in line with my brother from the refugee. The pseudonyms of Al-Shabaab and the fractures, the kind of style which is changing within the radicalization group today. How do we consider that? First, the process of radicalization. One of the things I should have actually mentioned here are the different terminologies related to violent extremism. Radicalization is one of them. And one of the things we found in Kenya, especially Mombasa, is that radicalization starts at the age of 3. 3. So probably even below, or even when the child begins to say certain words in their own languages. We have institutions that are set to train children, to teach children certain scripts and so forth. Others are training children in the best way possible to understand the script positively. Others are not. But as the child goes to the age of 9, this is what we found, that this is an age when the children are actually beginning to transport weapons from one area to the other without attracting the interest of the security. So radicalization as a process starts very, very early. But our contention here is we will be looking at youth who actually might agree to talk to us. They know they have been radicalized, or they have been put into this process unconsciously. Almost 70%, I can say, of people who we talk to somehow don't even know that they're involved. And they find themselves already in Al-Shabaab camp, and they begin to think and say, well, how did I get here? This is how sometimes we get the returnees, and we have talked to them. We have talked to some of them, and they said, we had no idea we were being radicalized. We just found ourselves in that training, and we were told you are not going anywhere. So once some of those returned, they have to relocate from where they had been living, and then stay in different places in order to avoid repercussion either from the state or from the Al-Shabaab group itself. And those ones have very deep insights about the process of radicalization. We have talked to some of them. They are in our bracket. We don't look for them, but once we find them, we tend to do, we have added a factor in the methodology, even if it is purposeful. We also do snowballing. So if I come to you and ask you maybe to do some interviews with me, and you give me more names, and then I snowball, through you I can get more information. And maybe through my brother from the police, we can continue asking many more questions. We are not limited to a number of interviews or whatever. We are going to ask as many questions, many people as possible, from the military, from civil service, from the police, from the counterterrorism department, from government ministries officials, and from youth, be you in a family, or we have in our methodology also different categories of people that we think we might need to ask, like family background, we need to know that. We need to know the age bracket, the level of education, whether that person is actually unemployed really and wants to get a job, and that can counter violent extremism. So there's quite a lot of that we're going to work with. There was also another question that very key, how the study will focus on certain ethnic overtones. I think this is almost close to what Charles was also alluding to. Certain ethnic groups will feel really aggrieved because their child or the family members have been killed, and in the process, they may pick up mechanisms by which they will be very violently radicalized and violent. Now, it's very difficult for us to identify some of the some of these things that we might be looking at. It will be too broad for us. We have realized that even within Kampala alone, or within Nairobi alone, if you take Makare and you compare it with Isli, and you compare it with Babadogo or Dandora, all the contexts are very, very different. You will find people also moving around. The population, the population of the institution also is increasing. For example, the numbers of churches in that area alone is over 300 in a very small, compact area. And it has been growing every day almost. There's a new church. And new mosque immediately crops up. So the institutions are also there that we need to look at, not just the ethnic composition and the group. So we need to look at the broader picture. How do you understand the intelligence network, how it works? It is very difficult. I mentioned in my presentation briefly that some of these activities involve intelligence gathering, and one of the concealment that one might not need to know is to make a difference between what is national state security and what is supposed to be in the open. It's a very thin line. And where the government might think this is going to tamper with the national intelligence procedures, they may decide to remove the information away from the report. And as a guideline, we cannot do this without the government. So whether or not we decide to do it without government is another question. But our decision is that we should bring everybody on board, including the government. And if the government agrees to give us interviews, like what I'm hearing, we will be very happy to do that. And that I will embrace. There is a question on how do you enforce the action of the state, by Charles. We are going to look at all the stakeholders as individuals, and there are other areas I would also add on your argument, Charles. Although my brother said you presented it in the most extreme way, maybe we can have extreme squared before it becomes violent. Extreme squared. There are even non-state actors who are extreme, and they are actually even worse than the state in certain cases. Like, for example, waste dumping in the coastal area where people now begin to die, and then other people begin to feel like something must be done after everybody has contracted cancer, calling, whatever. So it is a very important point that we must work with the state and involve the state and interview them. And where there is an agreement that the police is a criminal, we will quote the president, because this is coming from open source. The police, my police is a criminal force in Uganda. It is in the newspaper, I've seen it. It is also out there, it's written and people are quoting it. But there is also a counter-argument that there is a context. Usually the president says there is a context to what I'm saying. You need to understand the context in which he is trying to say that. It is not only this statement he made, he also said in Kitgum, I think 2 days ago, when he went to sit with Beatrice Anywa, and he said he has understood that the police are very corrupt. In any case, we can take them out and replace them with new recruits because we have educated people. This is good. This is a good information that we can use because the reality is that it is there and we accept it, then we can document that. That Buchoro, I think we have also elements of the historical context to what we are doing research in, and the historical context actually takes care of the background of the areas that we have chosen. So we look at, it takes me to why we have chosen Gulu Kitgum, why we have chosen Garissa, why we have chosen Mombasa, why not Kasese, and so forth. We are going to look at the mapping of those areas in terms of context, in terms of events, in terms of...
what we have been given as the seed money. In fact, we are appealing to our partners, who are you, to collaborate with us so that we can ensure that we have a great impact in this project. Collaboration is in the sense of giving us the information, helping us also get funds, especially the Ugandan government, if we can support us to get funds. We also have our partners here who are running different organizations. You can even advise us on how we can fundraise so that we can ensure that we have impact. Then the other input is the Inception workshops, like this one. Whatever information you're giving us, we will build it into what we are going to do. After this, we are going to have a research methodology training workshop for capacity building of the research team. We did in Nairobi for the main researchers, and then from tomorrow, in every place where we are going to collect research, the enumerators will also we shall build their capacity to train them on the intelligence methods on how to collect data of sensitive information. Then we are going to do desktop research, which has already started. This is work in progress. We are doing field research. We have already done in Kenya. Here we are in Uganda. And we are also going to develop training manuals. Our intention or our wish is we may develop a holistic curriculum, a holistic and integrated curriculum to reflect the inclusiveness, whereby this curriculum we may train civil societies, we may train the security forces or the policy makers, we may also train a manual that can be used in schools by the teachers to train or to help children not to get involved in violent extremism and such. We are looking forward to, from this research, we will now develop a proper curriculum that is holistic and will involve all those